Ready.
Cool. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked Off Logic podcast. We're here with a very special guest, Brandon Merrill. At this point, this show will be airing in April, so
Is
he
it
may
really?
have...
Is it really in April?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
Well, we gotta wait. He's gotta come out. It's the day The Last of Us 2 comes out on HBO
Okay.
in honor of The Last of Us 2.
Got it.
But, so you may have
This
heard...
is way early.
Way early, yeah. But by this point, you may have heard his story. He's an attorney here in Utah who helps prosecute murders. But we're talking about fake murders today. We're talking not real murders. And so we're welcoming him for the first time. But for the listeners, we're probably welcoming him back. And Brandon, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Okay, so for those of you listening, Brandon just got a PS5 for Christmas, right?
Yes.
First time.
W in the chat. Can I get a W in the chat?
Can I get a W in the chat? And so we're on the podcast today. We're talking about The Last of Us 2, which is the first game he played on the PS5. And so I'm curious to know, I know Sam is too, now that you've finished The Last of Us 2, what's your next buy going to be on the PS5? What game is
Oh,
next?
I already just barely bought it. And
Oh, what
started
is it?
Yeah, it's Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so I just started Hogwarts Legacy.
Why Hogwarts Legacy?
I don't know. I like Harry Potter, and I got good reviews, and everybody said to play it.
I bought that shit
it's a
day
good
one.
Good story one. So.
Still in its package.
Oh.
Oh, you haven't played it yet?
I haven't played it yet. Huh. I was so deep into Elden Ring.
Oh, yeah.
Same for God of War
That's another
Ragnarok.
one that-
I bought that day one. Still in its package. Actually, I did install that.
You have God of War stuff all over your house, bro.
I know, but Elden Ring I have to finish. And I have to. I'm sorry, I felt like I just hijacked your answer.
You're fine, man.
Hogwarts Legacy.
Like, it's just so deep. And Hogwarts Legacy, I understand, is a very big game.
Yeah.
So I can't just like
I
jump
alternate.
into that world, into this world.
No, it's true.
It's
Yeah.
exclusive.
Yeah.
So
You
continue,
forget- you
Hogwarts
forget
Legacy.
Yeah, that's what I do that, and then I alternate with NHL 25. So.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You can see he's got a hockey shirt on. Those of you watching on YouTube, the
Yeah.
Utah Hockey Club. We know
Yeah.
our mascot now. It's going to be the Yeti.
It's not official, but that's what it's.
Do you think it is? Is it going to be the Yeti? Is that kind of the...
It's all but been leaked. It's
Okay.
like it's unofficially leaked. It's the Yeti.
Okay.
What was the
If
other
it's not the
runner-up?
Yeti, I don't know
What it could be?
like what it would be. Yeah, it's gonna be.
Was the other runner-up like Venom?
There was 5. Well, there were 6 finalist names. So it was Yeti, Venom, Mammoth, Blizzard, Outlaw, and Hockey Club, which is what the temporary name is. But they're not gonna keep it. I think they just put it up there as an option just to see if it got overwhelming support. But
Gauge interest.
Yeti,
But also another way to make some money reselling merchandise twice off the bat.
oh yeah, probably. I mean, I don't care. I'm gonna buy both of them. So.
Oh, for sure. But
Yeah.
like, it was strategically a good move for them in that regard of like, we have all these fan base. Let's get a bunch of money with this
Yeah, well,
initial
they had to do something.
merchandise. And then let's drop our new name, more merchandise, and have everybody buy that again. So it's now you're doubling what you would have got on just your initial original merchandise name sale.
Yeah.
I have a story. Brandon took me to a hockey game this year, and he invited me to go, and I was like, well, what do I wear? I've never been to a hockey game. Do I have to wear like a coat or something? Because obviously you're playing on ice. It's got to be cold.
It's chilly. Yeah.
And he's like, I got jerseys for you, man. Like, which one do you want? Give him like a couple options to choose from, and I was like, you choose. He picked one for me, and I can't tell you how many people gave me like a fist bump or like a high five or like, nice jersey, man. I didn't even know what I was
It's a
wearing.
great one. Yeah.
But I think it was like some kind of like retro.
It's the Arizona Coyotes' original first-year Kachina. So Kachina jersey. It's their old school, like Native American looking logo jersey. That one is from the first season.
Okay.
So
I
it's
just knew I was very popular on my first hockey game with people from Arizona because I had that jersey on.
Yeah. Well, even not people from Arizona. It's one of the best jerseys in all of sports, in my opinion.
That's cool.
Cool.
That's cool. All right. So Hogwarts Legacy. What else is? What other games are on your radar for the future? Or are you focused on that one until?
Right now, I'll probably just focus on that one until I finish. I might, pop in another one. I am looking forward to the new one that Naughty Dog is going to put out, but it won't be
Intergalactic?
out till
Very
yeah.
good.
But apparently, it's now getting pushed to early 2026. I thought it was going to be late 25.
Huh.
They've said it might not be till early 26.
I
So
wonder if they're changing some of the fundamentals from all the pushback they've got,
yeah, I'm not sure.
which is I mean, it's going to be good. Everything,
seems
everything
really-
Naughty
it
Dog
seems
does
like
is
it's gonna
good,
be
whether
good.
people are haters or not. Like they
Which means
can't.
it could push back
Well, people always
the
gonna hate.
third Last of Us as well,
Yeah.
though, if they're pushing that one back, because they're not going to start. I mean, they did just allow themselves to get bought by Sony, so that might make it so it still stays on time or on track. But
Okay, well, Hogwarts Legacy, and it was good. That was a good segue into using Naughty Dog and Last of Us. So
yeah,
just really appreciate the segue.
okay.
But you just finished. So anyone that's listening or you're watching on YouTube, this is your chance to kind of get out now, because we're gonna go right into spoilers right away. If you don't want to be spoiled, or you're watching the HBO series or whatever, just
And we don't even know what if the differences with HBO
That's
versus the
true.
game will be.
they could totally
So,
change it. But as far as like this episode, we're gonna talk about some theories of how you think this season 2 is gonna go. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about that. But if you're listening here, you don't want spoilers, feel free to exit stage left and come back once you've seen HBO's the Last of Us
At
Part
the
2.
end of May.
Yeah, at the end of May, come back, revisit the podcast. I'm sure Brandon will be back again, and we'll be talking about our reaction from season 2. So 3, 2, 1, we're now in spoiler territory. Well, I guess Brandon, to start off, what did you think of the game? I'm gonna start off. I don't mean to interrupt, but me and Sam were talking last episode that we recorded, which would have been a few months back now, based on release time.
Okay.
That we actually think that the Last of Us 2 video game is better than the Last of Us Part 1 video game. Do you agree with that? Or you?
The only thing that I wouldn't agree with on is that I would have liked to have a third alternate character of being Tommy and making my way
Yeah.
through that and going through that whole thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
That's badass.
like when you kept almost spoiling the video game for me, you're like, oh, it's Tommy time or whatever during when the first season of Last of Us was out on HBO and I was about to start playing, I assumed I was going to be playing Tommy at least at some point, or that there would be more Tommy involvement in the game.
Yeah.
But there is like hardly anything. So I think it'll be interesting to see if that's what they do with the show, if they do more Tommy or what they do. But either way, I would kind of like with Grand Theft Auto, where you had 3 characters you could switch between. I would have loved to do that with Tommy, being able to switch between
Interesting.
these characters at different aspects of. I mean, with how they did it, it was fine. But even just like rewinding back to Tommy, Seattle Day 1, Seattle Day 2, Seattle Day 3 kind of thing.
It's funny how they like planted that seed, because I remember because I'd never found the sniper rifle. Like if there's a sniper rifle for like Abby or Ellie to have, I never found it, and so my only experience with the sniper rifle the whole game was sniping with Tommy when you're practicing before you meet up with Joel. There's some sniper.
There is a hunting rifle which you can upgrade the scope on.
Okay, I must have never got that far.
Yeah.
Because I thought they had planted the seed of, Tommy teaching Ellie how to snipe, and then when you're Abby, like
You wouldn't be able to snipe Tommy from where you are ever
no.
when you're Abby.
No, but I
trying to
should have
make
known
it,
who the
but
sniper was when I was Abby, because
Gotcha.
that
Yeah.
sniper, like he killed me. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but you remember this part of the game where
I'm trying to remember.
it's when you're in Seattle and there's someone that's killing all the WLF, right? And from our point of view, I think we're led to believe that it's Ellie, but they're not talking about Ellie, they're talking about Tommy. And so Abby comes into conflict with Tommy, he's just sniping all your guys, snipes them all, and like when you hide, he snipes the cars, and the infected come to the noise, they come and get the car because the car alarm goes off, and you're like, God, this guy's kicking my ass. And you can't charge him.
Making the cars make those loud noises because during the backtrack scene or the
There's
back in
like a
time
parking
scenes with
garage.
Tommy, you
Yes.
do but the back in
yes.
time ones, when you're at the ski resort, you're like hitting metal signs
Yeah.
and metal posts to get the infected to go to that sign so you can snipe them easier with that throwback scene or whatever. So yeah.
Okay, I do remember the parking garage sniper scenario. I do.
Because you and I played Last of Us Part 2 right when it came out, like in 2020.
Yep.
And Brandon just played it 4 years later.
Did you know any of the spoilers?
Yeah, I knew.
What did you know?
I mean, I guess we already gave a spoiler.
We already
I
gave
knew
spoilers,
that the only thing that the two things. Well, actually, I was wrong about one of them. I just assumed, I guess, on one of them, but I knew that Abby kills Joel. I didn't realize how early.
Did you know who Abby was, though? Did you know?
No.
Okay.
I didn't know. I just knew that there was. Well, yes, I did, because when I read that, it was like, oh, it's the daughter of the doctor that was going to do the brain surgery or whatever. That the daughter of that guy killed Joel, and then that the whole game, it's basically Ellie going to try to kill Abby. So I knew that, or killing Abby. And so I don't know that I had read enough through it or saw enough of it that I knew that she didn't end up killing Abby. So I thought that she did kill Abby at the end of it.
Yeah.
But that's just my assumption. I don't know that I thought that was ever as well. I just.
But you knew that Joel died.
But I knew that Joel was killed. Yeah.
How did you know?
Just because when it came out, I wanted to know what happened.
Yeah.
So controversial.
Yeah.
You finished it, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm all.
He sent me a GIF with Frodo, or was it Frodo?
Yeah, it's Frodo when he throws the ring and he's
it's
like,
finished.
"It's done.
Yeah.
It's finished." Yeah.
But that's a really anyway. We'll get to that point. But it's a really good gift to send because that's kind of what you feel like at the end. We're just burned and scarred and wounded, and you're like, "What did I just do? Did I do the right thing?" But we'll get there.
Yeah.
I want to know initially, and if this is further down conversation, we can get into that. I want to know initially, this game was incredibly divisive when it came out, and it still has been divisive since it's come out. But I mean, in the early morning hours,
Yeah.
it was like life and death for people. And I think real friendships were ruined over this.
Well, the voice actors got threats.
Yeah, like it was
like, how dare
it
you.
was insane. And I have a friend, I won't name him, Jameson, who hates The Last of Us Part 2. Just hates
Interesting.
it. He hates Naughty Dog. He just hates it. And he looked at the spoilers. I completely disagree with his viewpoint on it, but he makes a good, compelling argument if you are of that opinion. So all of that to say, I want to know, how do you feel about playing as Abby?
So I also go back and forth on it because it's obvious why they are doing it, because you're playing from the perspective of two girls who have lost their dads basically to murderers or whatever. And so you get to see Abby's point of view with it. But honestly, I still didn't find Abby likable enough. It's really the other characters around Abby that are likable, and so it kind of makes her more likable. But really, like,
Talk about Lev.
Lev and
Owen.
Manny,
Yeah.
Owen
Manny.
even a little bit. Like, I didn't care for her as a character even at the end. Like, you feel bad because, like, you're beating up on somebody that was basically hung or put up on a crucifixion. I mean, I don't. Yeah. Anyway, I won't say on that one. But basically that, and it's different on there. Like, I would have felt bad that she did kill her at the end with that one, because like she's like, yeah, she still put up a fight and she was weak, but like she was weak.
She's still vicious. Like,
Yeah. And so
So what did you not like about her?
I just didn't find her likable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cause I really like playing with her. Like, after you play for Ellie for so long, like Ellie, like she's very quick. She's very good with her knife. But when you switch to Abby, like she's just such like a brute force. Where it's like some of those like big bitches from the Scars that like have the hammers and stuff. Like Abby just takes those things away and starts swinging them and killing them. And so the strength of Abby, I think I enjoyed playing with Abby more than I did Ellie.
Well, it's because you didn't get a Joel character to play.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And I like
Because if you had played Tommy, you probably wouldn't have.
No, Tommy would have taken it. But like when they first made me play with Abby, I was like, I can't believe they're making me do this.
Yeah,
Because like
I thought when they first switched me to Abby that they were going to make me kill Joel. Because
that would have been a twist.
because you see her like going
Yeah,
through all the stuff, and I'm like,
Gosh.
are they gonna make me kill Joel? Like these?
Can't do it.
Like I will quit this game if they're the ones that make me kill Joel, and then it just does it as a cutscene. But I thought they were gonna make me kill Joel at the beginning. Like I even told Carly that. I was like, I think they're gonna make us kill Joel, and Carly's like, wait, she didn't know any of the spoilers, so I accidentally spoiled it for her. She's like, wait, Joel dies?
Joel?
And she was like, I am done with this. And so she quit basically because of that, but not really, but still. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Interesting.
yeah, I obviously, and I have not played it since 2020. So I'm going like, I've like kind of, obviously I'm very
Because that's when
familiar
the
with it.
remastered
That's-
came out,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
No. That's when the original came out.
I think the remaster just came out last year, right? I think that's when I. That's when I.
2 year and a half ago.
It's
Oh,
like
okay.
I feel like it came out the year the PS5 got released.
Yeah, it was
but-
pretty shortly after. So, I mean, I spent a lot of time in the game, but still, it's been a minute since I've gone. And so, anyways, even as we're talking, I'm like, oh, memory. But I remember feeling like filthy when I was playing Abby, right?
I felt guilty even kind of liking her.
Me too.
Well, and I
I'm like, don't you make me care about this kid, Lev, or else you have to survive for him.
Yeah, and it just
she
they
survives
just
by-
force you to spend time in like another person's perspective on the matter, who also is, other than physically, is pretty much like a mirror of Ellie, right?
Yep.
So what's different than Abby than Ellie?
It's that we know Joel, we don't know the doctor.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
right? So she's all of her motives and everything are the exact same, and both are battling this cycle of revenge that just ultimately leads to losing everything in the end, right? But it was fascinating, and I remember feeling so filthy as Abby, and I just hated Abby, and I did not know the spoilers. I did not want to know the spoilers.
The only reason I did is because I didn't have a PlayStation. Because when I played the first one, I used my roommate's PlayStation to play it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I try to avoid all the spoilers as I could. Actually, maybe did I hear of the spoiler and I was really upset about hearing it? I think Jameson, my friend, told me about it, and I was like, "Why the fuck did you just tell me that?" Like I've waited years for this. Anyways, but then as you keep going throughout, right? I kind of went, I don't like that I can now walk in Abby's shoes going, I get it. I don't like it. I'm still mad at you,
Yeah.
but I can't blame you because I like Ellie for these reasons, and you are the mirror image of Ellie, and so why do I like Ellie more than you, right? If I look at it as a core thing.
Yeah.
And that is like this moral debate that I think they just put everybody in. And I used to think, for all the people that absolutely hated the game and was disgusted with it, and they just hated Abby, I was like, you guys have like no heart. Like, your heart is just completely blinded by, it's like a tunnel vision. Like, you have not taken into consideration just the reality of the stakes at play here. What happened to these characters? Abby her father was just killed, right?
And she's just a kid. Like, she
She's
doesn't
just a
understand,
kid.
like,
She doesn't
what-
understand it,
no.
right? And
But she feels
before
this.
the world burns this podcast down, I'm not like defending Abby wholeheartedly in her decisions to kill Joel, but I understand. So I was curious. Anyways, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
How did you feel about it? Like, what, and what was that journey for you? And how did your perspective change along the way? If it even did.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know that. I mean, yes, it does make you. It forces you to like her a little bit, but like I said, I think that it was the characters around her that made me like her. Like, I think if you take away the friendships that she had, I don't know that I would have cared for her.
Because in the very end, and I'm trying to remember details here, but in the very end, Abby is up on the cross
with Lev.
with Lev, right? And she has just lost all of her masculinity
Yep.
in terms
Pretty
of
much, yeah.
Yeah, she's thin.
her structure, right? Which
And her hair too. They cut her
which now has come full circle into who does she now look like physically?
hair. Ellie.
Ellie,
Yeah.
Interesting.
right? And so just as much as Ellie lost everything that defined her, Abby has lost everything that defined her. And now they're just not so different. Which is just an interesting thing at the very end to be put in that, like, all of, like, I mean, physically on a cross, like,
Yeah.
everything was put on the altar, so to speak.
Yeah, I guess even then, like, I guess you might as well go into the final fight. I guess we're already there, so might as well talk about it. But she, at that point, because you talk about like the friends around Abby that made her likable, her quest for revenge, like all the people are dead. The only person she has left is Lev. She has no allegiance to the wolves. She has no friends left. She's just alone. And Ellie, her quest for revenge ends up costing her wife or her girlfriend or her family, whatever you want to call her. And like I was trying to explain to Brandon when he was playing the game, I was like, how do I explain the ending of this game? Like you come across, because he was like, well, all these groups are just a bunch of assholes. Like the wolves suck, the scars suck. And I was like, just wait, bro. The Rattlers are worse than all of them. Would you agree with that after playing
I feel like we didn't get enough of them too, though. Like,
It's just that last segment
it's
of the
just
game.
that last little
segment,
bit of the game. Like, yeah, they're human slavers, basically.
And rednecks.
And rednecks with it, yes. But I feel like they definitely are some of the worst, because it's not just a faction against a faction. It's they try to capture everyone that they can and make them a slave to their farming operations or whatever they're doing. So yeah, I think there is some aspects where they are worse, but
That's in Santa Barbara.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the last fight, on one of the podcasts in the past, have you played Zelda by chance or no?
Yeah.
Okay, you played the most recent one, Tears of the Kingdom? Okay, you finished it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that boss fight is probably, like the final boss is probably the most epic final boss fight as far as like scale I've ever played. Okay. Where you're in the dungeons, you're fighting Ganondorf, and then he turns into a dragon, and you're fighting dragon versus you in the sky. Like it just doesn't get more epic than that.
Yeah.
This one is so much more, it's so much smaller in scope, but the emotional stuff there, it just feels so much more deep, so much more brutal. Because as Ellie, you're wounded for one. You work your way through this camp of slavers. You kill them all. You essentially take someone down off a cross who's being crucified, the same person that killed your dad.
Yes.
And she's looking to get away with her, adoptive son. You want to call him Lev, like an adopted son. And you put a knife to him and be like, bitch, you're going to fight me because you still killed Joel. And so you have like this knife fight with someone that you just crucified in this gloomy
Well,
Santa
that was
Barbara.
crucified. She didn't crucify her.
Yeah. She was being crucified. Yeah. So you're fighting her. And like, I don't know, like just the soundtrack was very emotional. Like the scene was very depressing. And I kind of almost, like it's, at that point, I don't know if you guys were with me on this, but at that point, I just wanted to let Abby go, even though she killed Joel. Like, I hate that she did that. Like you said, like, I'm not saying I sympathize with her in her journey, or more than I do with Ellie, but, I mean, she was just being crucified. She has Lev there. She's looking to get away. She's obviously suffered for a long time. She's starving. And I felt that the game made me still fight her, and like that, the emotional conflict, the how I felt, I feel like the soundtrack was making me feel, how the players were making me feel. I really enjoyed that final boss fight, which is a one-on-one knife fight where your opponent doesn't have a knife in the ocean of Santa Barbara.
Well, and the whole design of that, right? Just to piggyback off of that, the whole design of that when you look at the game, and I, as a cinematographer, I'm going like visually this world in this moment, like they're in the fog, if I'm remembering everything correctly. It's just like super stormy, cloudy, foggy. They can't really see anything in the distance. They're just fighting in this cloud of darkness, essentially, right? Which is like this, in a way, like this representation of like the choices that Ellie is going and making, and she's trying to. Her judgment is clouded by this revenge, clouded by this hatred that has just encircled her whole life, and she's right in the thick of it, like, and so all of those elements coming together, you just feel the weight of the world in Ellie in that moment of, is this repeated pattern of revenge going to end? And then we kill her or we don't kill her, right? But is it going to end? We know the answer to this because we've been playing the game for the last, if you include game one, the last 40 hours. And it's just, revenge never solves anything. It just perpetuates a new cycle of hatred and self-doubt and self-loathing and a continued alienation of oneself. So all of that design, speaking to what you were just saying, is just so tailored to this moment and this exploration of what does revenge like lead to.
Yeah. What did you think of the final boss fight, the one-on-one with Abby?
Yeah, I mean, I think I already said basically it was just didn't.
I guess you were good. You were just, I was like, I want this bitch dead.
No, not necessarily. I get what you were saying with that, and like the better to let her go type of thing. And then like I said, at the beginning I thought that it was going to end that way because I thought I had read that she ends up killing her, but then yeah, like I said, I didn't really know that I wanted to kill her at the end because she was in the weakened state. So
I will, when it comes to Abby and the decision of Joel, and this is a question I have for both of you, is, so when they killed Joel, obviously you're like, I can't believe they just did that. I just played with this guy in 2013. I was looking forward to playing with him again 7 years later. And the moment is sad because, Ellie watches it. But I feel like what gives that moment even more impact are the flashback scenes that they show us throughout the game. Because usually I hate flashback scenes where I'm like, I gotta go back in time where my sword's not upgraded, I'm smaller, or whatever it is, whatever game you're playing. And you had texted me when we were live texting our conversation where you were just like, you said something like Ellie's birthday, like a tear emoji. And when you map out like how those flashback scenes, what was happening before The Last of Us Part 2 starts, I feel like it adds so much more weight to what actually happened in that cabin in Wyoming. And so like, why, when you texted me that about like the emoji and the flashbacks, like why did that hit you? And what did you think of the other flashbacks?
oh, it's just because you could see that their relationship became strained once she found out who she was and what Joel did to save her. And so that's where you can see why the strain was there. Because at the beginning, the strain is there, but you don't know why. And then this basically shows you why, that she found out that Joel basically annihilated everybody to make it so she wouldn't get killed that could potentially find the core, and then lied to her. I mean, we all knew that he lied to her, but she didn't know, obviously. And so it's just a little bit different because now she obviously has a ton of survivor's guilt that she could have been the cure, and now she never can be because the only person that could have done it was killed by Joel. So it's interesting for sure. I think I didn't mind the flashbacks as much to fill in that answer because I feel like everybody would have demanded it anyway. And then also they weren't as intense of flashbacks as far as needing a lot of strategy to complete. Yeah. So, the zombies in there weren't as bad, or they weren't as hard of levels as some of the other levels. So
with that, like, is Joel a good person or is Joel a bad person for what he did?
I don't know that for any of it you can actually judge that for the whole apocalypse. I don't know that you can. There are people that this human slavers, yes, but if you're just fighting to survive, that's a little different. But there are times where pre-game that we know that Joel was not a good person. So
Well,
the difference on that, at least for the games, though, is he's trying to save somebody.
Yeah.
That's his child, basically. Whether or not she is, like, it's his child, pretty much.
Because he was one of those guys, I think, that used to like fake hurt, like, and to get the cars to stop, and then he would.
They
rob them.
allude to that, yeah. They allude to that, or at least it's a trick that he knows.
Yeah, he's
so
like, "Oh, these guys,
yeah, like I said,
I know this trick."
I think he. If you're a parent, you do anything to help or save your child. Like, that's kind of what he did. He didn't know that they were going to do this to the kid at the beginning.
Yeah.
And they didn't know, when you see the flashbacks for Last of Us 2, that until she got there, they didn't know that they were going to slice her brain open and all that. So it's different. I don't know that you can judge him in the context of the games, whether he was good or bad as far as that goes. Because for him, it was necessary to save the most important person in his life. So
for sure. Yeah, like as an individual level, I think I wholeheartedly agree.
yeah,
I just started asking myself the question, well, if she was the cure,
yeah, and that's where it comes in. It's like,
well, does
for
that mean-
society, bad.
right? And I'm like, but I love Joel. Like, Joel is a good guy. He's not the bad guy. But if she was the cure, actually the cure, then he fucked up the world, right? And so that's all. See, and that's what I love about Naughty Dog in their storytelling, is they just go, how far can we put you on this edge of morally what is right or wrong or good or bad, and who's on that line? And they do such a good job at going, yes, but no, but yes, but no, but yes, but no.
And there's always yeah, I had my own thoughts on that where, because like it's like you were saying, like it's such a fallen world to where it's kind of hard to judge like where humanity's at. Because if you're looking at the world from like our point of view, let's just put Last of Us 1 for example.
Yep.
The people that he meets, okay, Fedra, a bunch of Nazis. The government control, some camps better than others. The people the Fedra agents that supposedly in Kansas City were just a bunch of rapist Nazis. Okay, so you move on, you find Tommy's little clan of like communists up in Jackson Hole, and you're like, okay, these guys aren't bad. And then not 2 hours later, you're in Colorado, and you find David, who's a pedophile cult leader. And you get to the Fireflies, who are a bunch of revolutionaries that commit acts of terrorism against Fedra. At that point, that's humanity. That is who we're going to kill Ellie to save? I'm like, it's like Joel's choice was such a choice for him, where it's like, yeah, maybe the more moral choice when you look at it from a different lens is save the world, sacrifice this kid. But this world, like the cult members,
Is it even worth saving?
Is even worth saving. It's like I'd much rather save my world, the thing that makes me happy, versus getting a cure so that David the pedophile can walk another day. I know it's a very like just another like a overview of looking at things in a very simplistic.
It's like where's the justice in saving a world that's not worth saving?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
When you have the life of a child who is worth saving, right?
Yeah, and it's cool too. Like cool. Maybe cool is not the right word, but so I played this year Last of Us Part 1 and Last of Us Part 2 back to back, and Ellie, like Naughty Dog did such a good job because Ellie is not like an annoying companion. Like Zelda is, I love The Legend of Zelda, but Zelda is famous for having annoying companions where they yell at you and you can't progress until you talk to them. Like, okay, fine, I'll answer you. What do you want? Ellie, she'll talk to you and you can just walk away. Also, in other games, you have this mod that will alert the enemies that you're there, and you're like, gosh damn it, I'm trying to sneak, and you're up there talking, you alert the enemies. So it's really smart on Naughty Dog to just make her to where she can't alert the enemy. She can walk right into a clicker, and it just doesn't matter. She's not going to alert the clicker that you're there. And so you
Especially because their AI
Yeah.
is off on that. They'll walk in or they'll be sneaky. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and she's like this kid. The first time she used a gun, she's shook, both in the show and in the games.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward
That
5
happens
years.
with Dina a few times. I feel like in the early Seattle days, like when you're in the bank and you're trying to be sneaky, she like runs into this corner,
Yeah.
but like is surrounded by all the
Yeah, in Seattle, like that's another thing. Seattle's such a perfect location to like their journey they took in Last of Us Part 1, like trying to get to the top of the mountains for either sanctuary or like to get the cure, like just the ascent, the concept of you going up is makes it more exciting. And then going to Seattle, where the whole city is just covered in water, it's covered in rot, it's overshadowed, it's dark all the time. It just gives like that extra vibe to the game. But Ellie's transformation, you talk about revenge and like what it's done to her, and obviously she's been training because she goes from like not knowing how to shoot a gun really until Joel trains her as a 14-year-old, and then as a 19-year-old, I mean she kills what 300 people in this game.
about easy.
Like she
Probably
becomes, like,
more.
this- yeah. And so I really enjoyed just watching Ellie's growth, like in a span of 5 years, and it will be interesting to see what they do in The Last of Us Part 3. I'm assuming it's coming. Like they can't not give us a part.
Oh, they
3.
already said it's coming. They
Okay.
just don't know when because they were at least until recently, because they were a small studio. They only do one game at a time.
Yeah.
And now that Sony's bought them, I think it allows them to get started on multiple games at a time. So.
And the flashback of like I'm going to go back to the flashbacks. We're talking about Ellie and how it fills in the gaps of like that story. There's 2 flashbacks that like just there's a lot of them that all of them are really sad. All the flashbacks they show. The one at the dance where she's dancing with Dina and he steps in because that guy called her a dyke or something. And he steps up for her and she lets him have it in front of the whole town. You can just see like the look on his face where he's so hurt. And he leaves. Just flees. And then they show that flashback where he obviously is like, if I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again. I wouldn't change a thing. And she's like, I don't know if I can ever forgive you for that, but I'd like to try. When you realize that's the last thing she ever said to him, and they were just starting to reconcile, like this conversation that she's having with Dina while they're hunting the clickers in Wyoming in day 1, where she was like, yeah, me and Joel are going to watch a movie tonight. For those close to Ellie that know the whole story of like, that is a massive step because you haven't talked to the guy in 3 years.
Yeah.
Like when I saw that, I think that should take it to the very end. I'm like, that's the last thing that they ever said to each other. And so there's this TikTok that shows up, and this TikTok, every time it comes across my feed, I'm like, I get so sad because there's a scene from The Last of Us Part 1 where he's picking up Ellie for the first time, and Ellie's like the words are like, I hate you, and he's like, I hate you. And then it shows him in the car, and Joel's driving, and Ellie's looking out the window, and Ellie's like, I love you. And Joel's like, I hate you. I still hate you. And then there's a scene where he's hugging her, she's hugging him at the end of Last of Us Part 1, and it's like, I love you, I love you. And then there's the scene where they're on their porch, and Joel's like, I love you, and Ellie's like, I hate you. And the last slide is a picture of Joel's grave in the graveyard, and Ellie just says, I love you. The whole thing's just so sad.
And there's nothing. She says, I love you, and it goes unanswered.
Mm-hmm. Just a couple dots right next to his grave. Fuck. Sam's a crier. I'm a crier. For the Logan episode, I was way worse than his. But fuck is our term
Yeah.
that he uses when it's like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's
fuck,
fair.
this is too much.
no, like that. It's just cruel. And like I was listening to like the podcast, like the official Last of Us podcast, and obviously like Neil Druckmann, I think his name, he gets a lot of questions where it's like, why did you do this? And he was like, in the story that I was telling, Joel's part had ended. Like Joel had reclaimed his humanity, if you want to call it that, in like this fallen world. He has healed as much as he can from like what happened with Sarah, and his part in this story was over. And so, do we have to kill him? No. But for the story that we're looking to tell, it was his time to exit stage left. And you know, I mean, I'm pissed at him still, but I also think he's right.
Well, and the only way that he could exit that would make sense of him exiting because it would be that he was removed from it. Because Joel would never leave Ellie again. Right? There would never be a time where he would go, all right, it's good for me to take my exit. He would stay with Ellie for forever. Someone had to remove him from that. And so, how do you do that? Well,
You gotta take a golf club to his head.
introducing Abby. So there's a lot of loss in the Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 even more so. What for you? This is a question for both of you, I suppose. I have my answer, but I want to know for you, what was the heaviest loss for you in Part 2?
Go ahead, Brandon.
I mean, the easy answer is Joel, because that's who you're bonded to. Because really, the full first game is mostly just Ellie and Joel. You get introduced to Tommy for a second. You get introduced to Frank for a second.
But you're playing as Joel.
So that's the character you've bonded to, because that's who you were. You saw that perspective. So that's the easy answer. And then I think, like, as a secondary one, it's not a true loss, because, who knows what will happen in the third game, but Ellie losing Dina, like, coming home,
That's a good one.
house being empty, like,
Son
because
gone.
she chose to go after revenge, even though, like, at least for her initially, seemed to have healed and moved on from it. And so choosing to go back down that path, because they almost all would have, if Abby wanted to, honestly, everybody probably would have died right there, because she had caught them by surprise pretty much. So they could have all lost their lives then, and that could have also ended the story. But going back after Abby is what made Ellie lose again, her new family, basically.
Oh man, that's
Pretty good answer.
Yeah,
Pretty good
that's
answer.
really good. Yeah, I forgot about that one, but that's at the end of the game. And then, like, the most ironic part is that the song that Joel taught her, she can't even play now because it cost her a finger.
Yep.
I think, I don't know, like, just like I get where Ellie's coming from. Like, I would want to, like, get revenge too, but there's a point where I think that Ellie realizes that she's losing herself along the way. Like, because Ellie gets really pissed off at Joel because she wasn't able to save the world, right? And there's a point where she kills one of Abby's friends, the one that's pregnant, and she, like, looks down and she just, like, I can't believe what I'm doing. Like, I was pissed off at my dad because, like, he didn't let me save the world, and I just slaughtered a pregnant woman. Like, what have I become? So I think it's kind of like a gradual descent to, like, that point where, you get, like, me in the game too, you just get so caught up in revenge. I'm like, these freaking wolves, like, why are they still around? These scars, I just went home on dead. Headshots, move on, take the knife, I run out of bullets. You get to that point where you're killing pregnant women, and you're like, whoa, you didn't realize, like, as a player, that you've come down, like, this far. So I think, like, the loss of her humanity is one, and then just seeing how there's always a like a consequence for our actions. And, like, I was really, like, I not as emotional as, like, when Joel dies, but when you see Abby's reaction when her dad dies, like, the flashbacks where you spend time with, like, her and her dad, you see, like, how good her dad was to her. Like, yeah, I felt that. But probably, like, Ellie's loss of humanity, I think, is what was the biggest loss. Because you kind of go with her on that trail until you kill pregnant women, and then you kind of realize yourself as a player, you're like, okay,
Yeah,
like, I'm losing it too.
for sure.
Yep.
I think for me, and you actually kind of brought it up, Tyler, but I think for me the heaviest loss is when Ellie loses her finger, because we basically start. It's not the very first thing in the game, but it's pretty much the first thing in the game. We lose Joel, right? And then at the end of the game, we lose Joel again, because we lost the connection that she has left to Joel, which is the ability to play guitar to the song that he taught her, which is called Future Days.
Pearl Jam.
And after all that is left, coming home to an empty home, Dina, you know, Ellie is just left to herself. And now physically has less of herself than she did before. And that very thing was her last tie and connection to Joel, was the memory of playing guitar. And she can't do that anymore. And that is like a second death of Joel in the story. And that to me was just heartbreaking.
Dang.
I was like, fuck.
That's a really intense way to put it too.
Like, and this was not Abby killing Joel this time. This was Ellie killing Joel this time. Because she kept going down this path. And even though it was her fingers was lost in the fight with Abby, if she never would have gone back, she would have never lost that connection with Joel. So for me, that's the heaviest loss.
And you think about, like, if she wouldn't have went back, Abby would have died. Like, because she went back, Abby lived. Like, the whole, like, if you would have just let bygones be God, you get to keep your finger, get to keep your family, and Abby dies. You don't know it, but she dies. She dies in that cross.
But even throughout the whole thing, when she's tracking Abby down in Seattle and again in Santa Barbara, every single time that she thinks she's getting close, she goes, oh, like the zombies, I hope the zombies didn't get you, basically.
Yeah.
Or I hope that these Rattler guys didn't get you. Like that's, she makes those comments to herself. She's like, I want to be the one that kills Abby, basically. And so, like, even when she encounters the Rattlers, she's like, is she still alive? And, like, doing all of that.
You just remind me of that scene where, like, I knew that Ellie was, like, not here for the bullshit. There's a scene in the game where you're chasing down one of Abby's friends, right? And you get stuck in, like, in the spores, and she's like, we're both dead now, you bitch, or something like that. And Ellie takes off her mask and just starts breathing normally, and you can see, like, the fear in this person's eyes, like, why aren't you turning? And she's like, oh, well, I'm immune, bro. Like, you're the one that's gonna get infected. I'm gonna watch it happen, and like just watch the interaction, just like, oh, she's here, like she's here to finish this job.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she doesn't see it through.
No, she doesn't. But one thing, I'm just reading through our text, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask you.
I was doing the same thing. I was like, okay, where did I text him about different things?
Because I can tell the stuff when you text me. Because we were texting back and forth. Because he was like, I'm starting Last of Us 2, Seattle day 1. Oh, maybe play as Abby. And I was like, bro, Rat King's coming. The Rat King is coming.
Yeah, you were spoiling things.
And he's like, the Rat King? Like, what's a Rat King? And I was like, you have to find out. I said it was the Rat King, but I didn't tell him what it was. And he was like...
I mean, I could, from context, I figured it, because there was I want to say it was an episode of 30 Rock or something, where they talk about a Rat King, because it's like all the tails get tied together or whatever. I'm pretty sure, it is 30 Rock where they talk about that. Because Dennis says he's the Rat King, because he just ties himself into somebody and leeches to survive or something. Anyway, so yes, I got it from context that it was going to be a crazy ball of zombies.
Yes,
basically.
okay, yeah. I'm like the Rat King. I'm like, that was when it was that big conglomerate.
Yeah, and then there's one at the end that kind of peels off.
It's like a hunter that's like chasing you.
Yeah, and it eventually you kill it, but it's much more wily than the normal ones of that type of zombie.
Yeah, I remember the first time And
it was hard to beat.
Oh my gosh.
That Rat King was very difficult to beat because it breaks through the walls, like it makes it all open. You have to dodge and run around in circles basically until...
Dude, this Rat King is impossible. That's what he said. He said that to me on January 13, 2025. He was like, dude, this Rat King is impossible. And I said, you got this, bro. Just keep shooting and then running. I did the method of 3 shots and I sprint. And I find a place to hide out. until he finds me again. And when you run out of bullets, just use the flamethrower and hope for the best. He was like, finally got him. And I was like, how'd you get him? I don't remember, but that little bitch that separates off him was annoying. I'm like, yeah, he's the worst. He's like, oh, I remember. I threw the pipe bomb and the shotgun fire. Repeat 4 times, then flamethrower, then the machine gun. So it's
Because
like,
I had the shotgun shells that would burst into flames when you shot them with it. So I used all of my flame shotgun ammo and then threw pipe bombs and flamethrowered until he finally collapsed. So I had to keep running around. Like I kept dying at certain points.
What difficulty did you play at?
Not a good difficulty. I am not a good gamer. Like I play on the recommended entry level difficulty.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
like it's probably beginner or something. You know, I'm not a good gamer. I'm not a very intense gamer. My wife will even say like, you know, I go through a phase where I play really intensely for like 2 or 3 weeks every 6 months, and that's about it. And then other than that, I'm very casual with it. I don't care that much.
I think for like heavy story-based games,
Yeah,
I play like normal
yeah.
because
basically normal
I don't
difficulty, yeah.
want to get caught up in the mechanics
Yes.
when I want to get caught up in the story.
Yes.
But what's that mode? Survival mode? Survival mode?
Yeah, there's
Like-
like one where you run through, and if you die, you start at the beginning.
and
Basically.
you get like 2 bullets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like survival mode, like you could get to the last game, you could get to the last fight with Abby. And if you die,
Back
Start
to Jackson, Wyoming.
back to start of the game.
There are ones where you're like survival mode chapter or survival mode
Yeah.
whatever, and so like or part or whatever, and so it does it differently. But yeah, there are ones where it's the whole story, and if you make it to the end and die, like you would have to start all over, which I can't imagine the time you'd have to put into
Dude,
that.
and I have a buddy who platinumed that game, so he got everything. He did everything. So he did survival mode. And I'm just like,
I do wish that they would have done more of a open world concept with it, so you don't have to restart the game to keep being in the world. Like it would have been fun to be able to pop back in as a character either, and you could even just select like, oh hey, I want to just go around and kill a bunch of rattlers or just wander around Seattle and do all that kind of stuff, or Jackson, or being able to wander around in those towns and do all that.
I think though that part 2 was much more, if my memory serves me well, was much more open world-esque
Yes.
than part 1.
Yes.
Like
There was more places you could go into. Almost every like shop and window could be broken, and you can go in and rummage or whatever.
yeah.
5 bullets.
But it was still, but even still, it was very like you're being herded.
Yes.
To this
Yeah,
point.
they still blocked off exits and entries and different things for where they didn't want you to go until you completed that part of the story or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So how do you think they're gonna adapt this to TV? Like, do you think? Obviously, I think it's
I
too
was
big.
thinking about it with it. It's like, yeah,
It's got to be 2 seasons. I think.
that they want it to be 2 seasons because then they can time the 3rd season with the 3rd game. I think that they already know, or 4th season, whatever it would be.
Well, no,
Chapter
no,
3, but yeah.
Yeah,
Last was
but I'm thinking like I think part 2 needs 4 seasons.
Interesting. I mean, what I could see them doing, number one, is they will do alternate episodes of Abby version, Ellie version, and maybe they'll throw in a Tommy version. Who knows? Maybe not. But I think that they'll change some of the stuff. I think they will make Owen younger at the beginning because he seems a little bit of a groomer, technically.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because he starts dating Abby when she's a young girl, and he's at least older in the military. So I think they're gonna need to change that a little
Morality
bit.
just goes out the window in the apocalypse.
But
I mean,
maybe they won't.
did learn
because that like that's the world. As much as we look at that and go, "What the fuck?"
They're still going to. I think that who knows?
They probably will just avoid the
they did
backlash.
make Bill and Frank a love story rather than a whatever
I
it
like
was
that, though. I
there.
like
Oh
that
no, I
episode.
loved it.
I
I
loved
thought
that
it was
episode.
fantastic the changes that they, and then they added Melanie or whatever her name is in the Pittsburgh, Philadelphia area, whatever that
Kansas City, I think.
Kansas
yeah.
City, whatever that area was. They did a
Somewhere
really
in the Midwest.
They did a really good job with adding in that, because I think before you're just like avoiding Fedra rather than
Yeah. So I wonder what
maybe
they'll
not. I
add,
don't
because
know, but yeah.
obviously they've added in season 1, so they've got to add in season 2 at least something.
They'll add and take away. I wish I would have saved it, or I wish I had known even with that, because I would have tried to remember better. But there was something I was telling my wife. I was like, yeah, I think they're going to change this, but honestly, I don't know what it is on there. I think it'll be interesting though to see like the Seraphite type thing with the wolves and their different points of view with things, seeing what they do there. I don't know. I think that they're obviously going to have to shorten some days
Yeah.
or some parts of the day, because honestly, that didn't really happen in 3 days. You're not making your way across the whole thing in 3 days like
Yeah.
they do in the video game. But
Yeah, the timeline's going to be tricky, because like I was trying to analyze the trailer from like the official trailer
I
we
think
got.
they said it was 8 episodes.
Yeah, 8 or 7, I think. But like, so in the game, you have the part in Wyoming where Joel gets killed. You have Ellie 1, 2, 3, Abby 1, 2, 3, day 1, 2, 3. You get flashbacks here and there, and then it goes more linear once there's a confrontation in Seattle between Ellie and Abby, and they go until you finish off the Rattlers, and then you fight Abby in the ocean. But in the game, that scene with Joel and Ellie on the porch happens at the very end of the game, but that appears in the trailer for season 2. So unless they're like fucking with us, which they could be.
I mean, that wouldn't surprise me either. But yeah, I
It looks
think
like it's
that they're
going more
going
like
to go
a linear, like they're going to start out with.
It makes sense to go more linear in the
Yeah.
show for the most part, but who knows? They could do flashbacks too.
But also, like, one thing to keep in mind is that scene at the porch that happens at the end of the game, and at the end of the flashback, right, or the end of the game. What did you describe
porch,
again?
porch.
The porch.
The porch scene where he's like, I would have done it all over again.
Yeah.
That happens at the end of the game, but it happens obviously before the event of Wyoming day 1.
Right. So, in terms of filming, if they've already built the set and they've spent the time in Wyoming, they're going to shoot that scene because it's part of the story,
Yeah.
instead of coming back and rebuilding it and
Yeah, they shoot them out
reshooting
of
it.
order.
They'll shoot it out of order so that they have that for later on. Whether that will be in the next season or not,
That's why I think they're effing with us. Because
Well, I mean, it says it's 7 episodes, which is 2 shorter than the first season, and they did say that it was a lot more story to tell, and that they were going to maybe break it apart
Yeah.
during season. So I mean, I could see either way, but like, where do you break it?
when do you kill off Joel? Do you kill him off
I think you still kill him off first, and then you
Episode
have
1?
flashbacks. Yep.
at the very end of episode 1?
Yep.
I think they're going to, this is what I think they're going to do. Prediction, locked off exclusive. They're going to give us an hour and a half episode to start the season, and Joel dies at the very end. But it's going to be an hour and a half long, and then they'll go back to like the traditional like 45 minutes to an hour episodes. But episode 1 of season 2, hour and a half, Joel dies at the end. And they show us the deterioration of Joel and Ellie's relationship, culminating with his death. That's how I think episode 1 ends. I don't think it's the start of episode 2, or even later. I think it's episode 1.
yeah, I think it has to be episode 1 as well. But as a filmmaker, I'm trying to imagine how to approach this, because, and Craig Mazin, Craig Mazin, he's incredible storyteller as a filmmaker. Just one of the best directors I've ever seen his work do. And so one thing he's very good at is, and in my opinion, the best stories are those that have clear narrative points of view, right? Which is what The Last of Us is. But we have how many points of view in The Last of Us Part 2? We have 2 very distinct ones. There's other explorations, but there's 2 very distinct ones, right? Ellie and Abby. And so and then we're playing those things kind of chronologically in order, but one after the other, and then we're going back in time to start at this character. So I'm going, okay, so do you go through one season as Ellie's point of view and then leave at the cliffhanger? We don't finish, we don't see what happens. Next season, go through that exact same thing, but Abby's point of view. Obviously, you will have Abby and Ellie in both seasons. And then the season 3 is the culmination of those things, and it's in Santa Barbara. Or is it episode 1, days 1 through whatever, Ellie, episode 2, Abby, episode 3, Ellie, episode 4, Abby, episode 5, Ellie, episode 6, Abby, and you said there's 7 episodes? Episode 7, the culmination of the 2. So it's interesting in how they approach to keep the integrity of the game being 2 separate narrative point of views. How are they going to cover that? You just can't do that in a single season. Not with the amount of detail that exists in The Last of Us Part 2. So
But I think they'll still surprise us with everything too, because people still at the beginning of when the first one was announced, everybody was like, "This is not," and like even like some people really hated Joel and really hated Joel and Ellie casting decisions because Bella Ramsey is not.
we talked about this.
You know, and I thought she did great as far as that goes. And I was far enough removed that I hadn't played the game in 10 years or something like that, so I didn't remember everything, but I thought she was fine. But even like looking now at who they've cast as Abby, I'm like, this girl is too skinny to be the muscly Abby.
Yeah.
Like, she's not mannish enough.
God, but she's so good. Do you know? Have you seen her in other things?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Oh
like,
my gosh, I think she's gonna be so
gonna be a great
good.
choice. But like looking at the video games, like Pedro Pascal does not fit.
Joel doesn't look Latino.
Joel, yeah, there's not any of that kind of stuff, and like the guy that they cast as Tommy doesn't remind or look anything like Tommy. And in fact, I don't really think he looks much like Pedro Pascal. I think they're different nationalities, and you can tell, in my opinion. But you know, to me that doesn't really matter on that. I think it's just as long as it's a good quality storytelling, even if it strays from the video game, if the overall narrative is going to stay the same, I think it'll be fine.
And the casting's always been so on point because it's the same creators of the game that are casting for these roles. And so obviously they're portraying something, these actors are portraying something about the characters are going to play, that the creators of the game are like, you represent exactly what I want represented as Abby or Kathleen or whoever.
Yeah.
And so that gives me confidence. But God damn it, internet, you better be nice to Caitlin Dever because you know it's coming.
Well, people were terrible to Bella Ramsey.
Oh, but even it's gonna be even worse because if people were cyberbullying the voice actors for Abby, getting death threats, right? She had to quit Instagram. Like Caitlin Dever, like you know that's coming.
Oh, it's already come. Like she had to have security while they were filming.
Oh God!
Did you know this?
No.
People are too weird on things.
She's had to have security since they started filming.
They don't need to take everything so seriously. That's
They do though. Oh man, they do.
but they shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
And I'll also say,
Unless
like,
you end up in your courtroom, right?
another. Hopefully not.
Maybe that crossed the line.
Hopefully not. But like another thing I'm thinking of, like in terms of how do they tell the story adapted to the screen, right? Do we spend season 1 just all in Wyoming, in Jackson? And then you basically take the flashbacks not as flashbacks, you take them as the progress of Joel and Ellie's relationship. And then that season 2 ends with Joel being killed. And then you're like, fuck, where do we go from here? Season 3 is now Seattle. Season 4 is Santa Barbara, right? So, because you spent a lot of time in Seattle,
Yeah.
right?
I don't think that will happen because of like how long it takes to film these things. Unless you're filming all like simultaneously, and it's already done, then great. But if we did that, like, let's say you get 2 years between seasons, right? By the time you get from Jackson Hole to Seattle Day 3, Bella Ramsey is 6 years older. And at that point, like, is it just taking too long? Are these actors gonna like stick around that long, or do you
You
think?
kidding me? How long was Bella Ramsey in Game of Thrones?
I've never seen Game of Thrones. That's why we have to. That's the next thing you talk about.
But
Yeah, you need to do that.
But I think what's yes.
Have you seen Game of Thrones?
Yes, I did not watch it until everything was done though, and I get the hype now.
Same.
But I avoided it forever. So I didn't watch it until everything
When
was
you get the
complete.
hype, you like why people were so excited about it.
Yeah,
It's fucking amazing.
We have this thing where it's like,
it's great storytelling.
because I've never seen it. Sam, it says it's his favorite TV show of all time.
It's up there. It's up there. Breaking Bad might be my number one.
What's your number one?
The Office.
Oh, of course, it's The Office. How did I not guess that already?
I've seen that. I watch that completely at least 1 to 2 times a year.
You
First
gotta come back
episode
on.
to
We gotta talk
finale.
about The Office. Because like one of our episodes is like I've never seen not one episode of Game of Thrones. I know that like certain
Okay.
actors come from Game of Thrones, like Pedro, Bella, Jason Momoa, all these different people. Boromir, I think he dies. And then
Of course he dies.
And
It's
then-
what's his name? Sean
Bean?
Bean dies in everything. That's
But,
his
like-
whole thing. He loves it.
I've been we had this episode where I was talking about Sam where when I'm bored on the treadmill, I'll watch like top 10 villain countdowns or whatever, like top 10 countdowns of something.
Okay.
And the little kid, Joffrey, is always top 3, always.
Yeah, he's pretty messed up.
That's what I've heard. And so
Yeah, a little fucker.
I know him. I know the Dragon Queen. I know the Ice Guy. I know Jon Snow. I think is his name.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
So what we're gonna do, and spoiler alert for next.
I can
for
say that
future
because I'm a
podcasts.
redhead.
It's fair. You don't get it because you
I
haven't
don't
seen
get
the
it.
show.
I haven't seen it. But I'm gonna watch season 1, and we're gonna come on the podcast. We're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna do that 7 times, 8 times, 7 times. How many seasons are there, Game of Thrones?
7.
7 or 8.
I know that people were real pissed off at the last season, and there's an episode that you have to watch like in pitch darkness to be able to see it.
Yeah, I just changed the brightness on my TV because I wasn't about that. I
loved
think I got bad
it.
enough
The last
eyes.
season.
Well, I
People
love
didn't
that
like
dark
it because of the
episode.
ending. It's just not a typical ending. It's,
Well,
I think
things
it's
gotta end
fine.
at some point. Like you gotta.
Yeah, there's 8 seasons.
8
Okay.
seasons.
Well,
Yeah, the last season's 6 episodes, so it's.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I guess they're all 6, 7 episodes, but the middle ones are usually 10 to 12. So
Well, this is the year I'm gonna watch Game of Thrones, and we're gonna talk about it. Season 1, season 2, all the way to season 8.
yep.
And then House of
First,
Dragon
the
is-
first
House of
5
the
seasons
Dragon.
are
Is it
10
good?
episodes
I
a
like
season.
House of the Dragon. It's not. I watched House of the Dragon first, season 1. Then I was like, "Holy shit, this world is amazing."
Mm-hmm. No, that's what we did.
Game of Thrones, yes, please.
That's what we did.
And
yeah.
then I just binged all of 8 seasons in a month.
Sounds like a hell of a month.
Oh, it was.
Okay.
I mean, it's 74 episodes total, but each episode is a movie. I mean, they're all 90 minutes pretty much.
Oh, okay.
The thing with like HBO and premium streamers is that you don't need to edit out story to fit 22 minutes like you do in
Yeah.
regular TV because you got to have 8 minutes of commercial. Like
That's
you
true.
film what you
Yeah.
want and then you cut out what you just don't want anymore. But you can have a 53-minute episode and you can have a 106-minute episode. Like
HBO stands for
home box office.
Home
Yeah.
Box Office.
Home box office.
Yeah, it's because it used to only just show movies about a month or 2 before they were released on VHS and DVD.
So their model for storytelling was much more movie-centric than television-centric.
Well, I think they're one of the
Then
best
they got
streaming
their
services.
first-
Like,
I think their first original was either The Sopranos or Entourage.
well, what are you watching right now? What are you? It's like we come to a close this pod. Like, what are your recommendations for streaming? What are you binging right now?
It depends
And
on what.
What are you most looking forward to in 2025?
So I've really liked and caught on to like Letterkenny and Shoresy, which are same creators, Canadian
there, bud.
TV shows. Exactly,
I have
they're
no idea.
Canadian comedies.
Oh,
It's
okay,
basically a rated R Napoleon Dynamite for Letterkenny.
Ah, okay.
If you like Napoleon Dynamite,
That tracks with
It's
what
like
I know
what you
about
doing
you.
with that soda can? You fucking it.
yeah,
Are you, bud?
you
That
take
would
you
be
about 10% off there, Squirrely Dan. And actually, you would work for Squirrely Dan too. So yeah,
That tracks with
anyway.
everything I know about you. Is like your type of humor. Like
Yeah,
a
and then
rated R
Shoresy
Napoleon.
is more hockey focused, but still funny and different. It's just it's very different than Letterkenny, so I like it.
Where can I find both of these?
Hulu.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're Canadian shows, but Hulu exclusive in the U.S.
Okay.
I like the British Ghosts, Ghosts UK. American Ghost ones is fine too. It's pretty funny.
So you're a comedy guy. You
Love
like
Taskmaster as far as a panel show goes. If you know what Taskmaster is, they're all on YouTube, but it's basically comedians doing ridiculous tasks against each other in a game show type format for points. It's really, really good. And then there's also the offshoots for different countries. So there's an Australian and a New Zealand version that are also really good. The New Zealand one is the best one of the offshoots. And then, that's pretty much it as far as new ones go. I mean, there's lots that I've watched. I like Shrinking on Apple TV. That's a good one.
Oh,
I've
Harrison Ford?
heard that one's good.
That's really good.
Being a Hulu watcher, Shogun. Have you seen Shogun?
I haven't seen Shogun yet. I don't know that it's my type of thing. I've heard it's amazing cinematography and really good stuff. I mean, for me, because my work has such darkness, I focus mostly on
That's why I went like this.
comedies.
Oh my gosh, I
was
didn't
like-
even put that together. That makes so much sense why you love
so
comedy.
I mostly just do comedies because it lets me just zone out. I don't need to pay attention.
Yep.
And while I liked House of Dragon and Game of Thrones and things like that, sometimes it was still just even though I see much more graphic things for my work, it was still just too graphic or too close to.
Yeah.
Moments ago when I was
stuff.
like, and you can go back and see it, record this.
Walked off the
I was
stage.
going to go, I know why you watch comedy.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And I mean, that's always been kind of my spiel, but I don't like any of the Law and Order CSIs, any of the true crime stuff. If it's a true crime type thing, not my style. The only crime shows I like are the ones where it's more comedy, so like Psych, basically.
Like Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that's not a real crime show. Psych at least has some murders in it, but it's comedy based, that's my kind of thing. So.
You know that there's all these studies that you watch a TV show you've seen over and over and over again actually reduces anxiety because you get the same endorphins and you know what's happening, so there's less.
That's why I watch multiples.
Well, I'm like The
watch-throughs
Office.
of The Office all the time.
I whenever I'm stressed out,
I have it
put
on background if I'm
Yeah.
writing stuff or if I'm
Parks and
working
Rec
on
is the same thing. Where
Parks
it's
and
like
Rec's
a low,
good
like
one.
low stakes. Like who gives a shit if the pool gets to stay open their half hour, but the whole episode with Leslie Knope and Jeremy whatever the Jam Senator Congressman whatever Jam
City Council.
City Councilor Jam.
Even lower stakes.
You just got jammed. It's like, who gives a shit if it stays over 3 minutes longer? But it's such a low stakes show. People are generally nice to each other. Same with The Office. You have a surplus. Who gives a shit what you spend it on? The printer,
It's mundane.
the chairs. It's mundane
stuff.
I really think in
not high
60
stakes, yeah.
years, nursing homes will have Super Smash Brothers on the TV and Office reruns happening in the background.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I still like my classic. I have an N64. I have a Super Nintendo. I play Mario Kart on things and Zelda and GoldenEye and whatever else I can find out there. It's always nice going back. I mean, that's why everybody, that's why these nostalgic things start going through the roof because, you try to go find a complete N64 system right now and tell me how much money it's going to cost
it's
you.
$150. I
Easy.
bought one last year and it was $150.
Easy, just for the system.
Yep.
And then the games are just as much as what you pay for new games for new systems.
Yep.
Unless you can get a screaming deal on them.
I just sold my GameCube before coming over here for $85. If some kid is putting a gaming room in his house,
Yeah.
had a GameCube to give away, not give away, sold $120.
Yeah.
And he Venmo cleared, and he's off with the GameCube.
Well, now though, the Nintendo Switch, you can just subscribe to their GameCube or N64 or Super Nintendo games, but then there's also they came out with the little mini guys that have the 100 games in one system or whatever because people were so hungry for those and it was cheap for them to recreate. They have the little baby N64, same thing. It's got 100 games on it and play. Go find a Game Boy Color right now and you're paying $100.
Yeah.
And go find the red or blue Pokemon. You're paying
Oh,
60, 70
those are
bucks a
expensive.
I was
piece.
gonna say you're paying
Especially one with a
200
good,
bucks.
especially one with a good charge battery, good battery on it, because those save batteries go out, and so you have to take apart the game, take off the save battery, put a new one in, and solder it back to it, and like it's very tricky because you could ruin the whole game if you don't do it right, and so people will pay top dollar for those games. Like I just bought a yellow version the other day. I got it for $30 at a garage sale, but
Oh, you got a good deal then.
well, I paid them more than what they were asking. They wanted 10, and I was like, no, I'll give you 30. Because if the save battery wasn't working, then I need to spend another 10, 15 bucks to get it going. But yeah, anyway. Millennials have money now, and they want to spend it on their childhood. That's why Pokemon cards started going through the roof
Well, you
again
look at like
5
just
years
culture
ago,
as a
6 years
whole,
ago.
like Spider-Man No Way Home, like you bring back the Spider-Man from like, and what's like the 5th or 6th highest grossing movie of all time
Yep.
during a pandemic. During
Yep.
a pandemic. Like millennials have money now, and it's like,
Yeah.
I want to
They
spend
just
it
want
on-
to relive the glory
Yeah.
days when they didn't have, all the other crap things were happening, the shit things were happening out there, but we were kids, so we didn't have to worry
Well, I'll
about
tell
them.
you, sometimes it pays because there's a special kind of comfort that nostalgia brings. I'll tell you a story. So my Nintendo DS, I paid $120 for my Nintendo DS, and then another $50 for Pokemon Heart Gold.
Okay.
I grew up on,
I have that
on the
too,
Heart Gold
yeah.
game, right? And I
Must be young.
I'm 30, how old are you?
37.
Dude, I'm 34.
How did you grow up on Heart and Gold then? Red and Blue are your
I
jam.
just missed Heart and Gold.
Okay.
I just missed Red and Blue.
Okay.
But
I grew up on red and blue and yellow.
It's like there's
But
gold and silver before
but,
that.
But when I
even.
learned how to read, is Heart Gold. I learned how to read when I was 11. Okay,
I was gonna say,
it took me a
Heart
while
and Gold
to
came-
get into the hang of things. But I got that game.
Yes.
The gold version, right?
Yes.
And the Heart Gold and Soul Silver, almost a shot-for-shot remake with a few really good additions.
Yes.
And I bought it because I travel all the time for work, and I have terrible flight anxiety where I'm like, this is miserable. Even a flight that's like 45 minutes, I'm like, get me the hell off this plane. And so I was like, nothing would fix it. I couldn't watch movies, I couldn't read, and so I bought this Nintendo DS, and I just play through Soul Silver and Heart Gold. I've done it probably 20 times now, just with different lineups, and those flights, they'll go by so fast. We can be going
Because
through.
you're not a flyer.
I'm not a flyer, and I could go through these. I'm a flyer who hates flying. I hate it.
You played regular gold and silver.
I did. I played with gold and silver. Yeah.
Not Heart
That's what I meant. That's what I
Heart
meant.
Gold, that's why I was confused. Because
That's what
Heart
I meant.
Gold is 2009.
No.
I
grew
just had
up
to look that
on
up.
Heart,
Okay.
Yeah. I said-
Gold and silver.
Gold and silver.
Not Heart Gold
But
and Soul Silver,
I
because
bought
that
the-
is
yeah.
2009. Yes, okay.
But man, I tell you, like
That's
you get on
more
that
helpful.
plane and you
Honestly.
put in Heart Gold, and I could be flying through a fucking tornado. Don't give a shit. As long as my Red Gyarados
just
has
zone out.
15 PP still on his Dragon Rage, don't care. And the nostalgia has helped me get through flights.
Yeah.
And I'll take those good endorphins as
I
often
kind
as
of do the
I get
same
'em.
thing. I zone out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, cool, man. Well, last thoughts on The Last of Us Part 2? Any parting thoughts as you go pick up your dog?
no, I think it's it's definitely a game that's worth it. I don't think that
Better or worse than number 1?
I mean, you can never replicate all sequels are worse than the first one. I don't think you can. There's like very few movies where the sequels are even better than the first one. There's very, very few. I think the only one that I can think of is like Thor Ragnarok is better than Thor or Thor Dark World, because they're both terrible. But that's because they're both bad, and then they just.
But what about Dune?
Anyway.
Dune 2. Dune 2
I
think
haven't
is
seen
better.
those. Don't really care about Dune. Yeah. But
I
anyway,
think
Last
you
of
would
Us
care about
1.
these dudes.
Last of Us 1, I think, was better, but that's just
Okay.
because that's where you get attached.
And that game had no right to be that good.
Not back then, no.
No. And you replay it now, like the remaster.
Especially
version.
with a non-Rockstar studio.
Yeah.
I think that Rockstar probably could have made one, or did. I mean, Red Dead Redemption
Yeah.
was that good, but like they're the top of the line studio, and Naughty Dog is just this smaller independent one. So yeah.
Are you looking forward to GTA 6?
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun one. I'm interesting to see what they're doing, because they're revisiting a city now, rather than fully
You
new.
may have a few grandkids before then.
Who knows? We'll probably get the Game of Thrones final books before we get a new GTA 6. So.
He just announced he's not going to write them.
Oh, did he say I'm just not
He
going
just
to
he
anymore?
was like, I would just rather play Elden Ring. That's what he said.
Really?
Badass.
He's like, I'm old. I would much rather just sit in my room and play Elden Ring.
I mean, he's got 2 books that he was supposed to finish, or 3?
No, this is according to like social media, right?
Okay.
So I don't know how true that is, but I mean, it makes sense. It is Elden Ring. Like,
That's one I probably will buy after Hogwarts because I've heard it's really good.
well, and it's his lore. I mean, he wrote the lore for Elden
Oh,
Ring.
interesting. Okay.
So it's from the mind and world of J.R.R. Martin. So George R.R. Martin.
Yeah.
When you say JR?
J.
J.
You said J.
Yeah,
That's
that's
because you were thinking J.R.R. Tolkien,
Tolkien,
and you
uh-huh.
did George R.R. Martin.
yes.
But yes.
Yes.
Dang. Well,
So
Brandon, thanks for coming on the pod.
Yeah.
Hope you have you back again when we talk about The Last of Us Season 2 on HBO and we find out what exactly happens. Our theories are either proven true, proven false, or they just subvert expectations and somehow Kylo Ren shows up and he kills everybody. Who knows?
That'd be quite the crossover.
That would be quite the process. But no, and as always, we'll link the link to your website, Utah Homicide Survivors. So if people are listening and they want to give, they can give to your nonprofit.
Sure.
Yes, yeah. Any parting thoughts?
it's just fascinating to hear your thoughts,
How you freshly played it.
for how you freshly played it, but also coming from, like, we didn't really talk about what you do.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right. But Tyler, I mean, and Tyler really knows. I have an idea because he was like, here's what he does, right? But you look at a world like this quite often. So it's quite interesting to hear your feedback on what you thought of the game and then just some of the questions, you know, because you understand, like, really the details. At least I know you look at the details because that's what you have to do. So it was fun to hear your perspective on those things, especially on a story like this, because it is a very complex, hard story
For sure.
that involves a lot of death and murder and justice and mercy, if you might.
So, you're Joel. End of season 1. Do you do what Joel did, or do you do something different?
I don't know.
I guess that's why it's such an interesting question. It's like,
Yeah. I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know that anybody could actually say what they would
Yeah.
do because it's gonna be. You don't have that. That's not a real test for people right now because it's not something that they actually have to decide.
And
Thank
I don't
goodness.
think Joel knew what he was going to do. I think Joel panicked. I think Joel.
And they didn't even let him say goodbye or anything.
Yeah, I think Joel had like.
just went feral.
He had like an anxiety attack, and he was put back in this situation of, am I going to watch Sarah die? And he didn't get a chance to go and save Sarah, and so it was just. He was back in a fight or flight mode, and he just reacted. I think that's what happened. So
Cool. All right.
Anyways.
Alrighty.
Well, Sam, you want to take us home?
thanks for joining us on another episode of Locked Off Logic, and make sure you tell somebody that you love them.
We love you, Brandon.